All right. We've determined our quorum. Next item up is to approve the minutes of the preceding meeting from August 12th. Do we have any discussion?
I didn't see anything.
I don't
Needed
think
it.
anything.
No.
Okay. We have a motion to accept.
I move we accept.
Second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next item up would be items not on the agenda for public comment. Do we have anyone from the public that would like to bring any topic up? No one on Zoom? No one in the waiting room?
All right.
We'll move on to our next item. Items for discussion and action. First item is the FAA IDOT projects. So, Mike.
Well, the big thing that we talked about last month was the approaches. We do have some updates, however, not very friendly updates. Finally, at least got to an FAA point where we had somebody that was helping us. Jimmy Hughes was he at Fort Worth or Oklahoma City?
I think he's in Oak City, but I'm not 100% sure. Chris has the address. I just have his phone number.
Anyway, at least he gave us a direction. We got our stuff submitted. He tried to kick up the information to flight procedures to unlock the blocked segments of our approaches that we could get back. However, he also was told, because it's been so long since they've been not available, flight procedures is requiring a flight check to get them back. And about that time, I went ballistic. Poor Carl. Carl got the brunt of my frustration, but yeah. So information that, I mean, he's been great. The last 2 days, we've learned more than we have in the last 2 freaking years.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's where we're at. So the positive thing, if there is a positive thing, we can tack all of that on to the work we're doing. So the flight check occurs when they do the 2.5 end for the threshold. Still means we're a year out from getting everything back.
But they can do it in one flight.
But they can do it at the same time they're doing all of that. Otherwise, we'd be waiting 3 more years.
Good Lord. Okay.
So I have shared my frustration with about anybody I could get a hold of that might be able to do anything. Because
we talked to Jimmy this morning with the full expectation that since he had what he needed to take them off of the list, that it was just days until they would be back. And his answer was, nope, flight procedure says now you got to do a flight check. And yeah, none of us were very happy to hear that. But I don't know if there's a way around that. I was under the impression there's not much way around that.
I don't know of any.
On what basis are they saying that they have to do a flight check? Like, where is this codified anywhere that says X days elapse since they're taken away via NOTAM or whatever? And then they haven't divulged?
Yeah, I don't know. The dates that the NOTAMs actually came up were 2016. So I did have an error in my memo because I think I said 2018. I mean, they have been out there for quite a while.
Yeah.
And from that standpoint, I can sort of see it. But at the same time, throughout all of this process, we've always been told that you get your stuff down, you submit your data, you get your stuff back. And up until, Jimmy thought it might be an issue. I talked to him yesterday and then confirmed it today because he submitted everything, that because of the lag time since all of that went down to now, flight procedures is requiring the flight check.
So hold up. Has it been 2016 since we got a circling approach? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah, they've been down for quite a while.
Well, but hold on to that thought, because we have circling approaches daytime today.
Yeah.
It's the same approach. It's just at night.
The problem is during the, because it's all part of the 20-1, the visual area around the runway. So during the day, you can see all of it.
It's the things you've got to light up at night.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So at night, in theory, you can't see it because it's dark and there's no lights because they're trees.
Yeah. So what do? They fly it during the day, or do they have to fly fly it at night.
I mean, as far as flight check goes, though, it'll be during the day because they operate during the day, but it's radar based.
Okay.
So they come in, they have like a King Air or something that's outfitted with
The whole
whatever they have
stuff.
on it. Yeah.
Well, Warren, we just got told that they have to fly our approaches to
Oh,
turn
no.
night circling.
Actually, I read the letter and thought, oh, great. Yeah.
I thought it was going to be good,
Mhm.
and then
Wait for a year now or something.
basically.
Mike did have a question that they, when they fly it next year, since it has been several years, I mean, as many things as there are around the airport, there's always the concern that when they fly it, they'll find one or two or something that hasn't been identified. What happens then? And what Jimmy did tell Chris and I earlier today, if you can get stuff done within, say, a few months of when they identify it, that they should not and in the past have not required a flight check. The reason they said a flight check on this is because of the elapsed time.
So
When did you join the commission?
2017, apparently, because I signed the strategic plan
Yeah.
thing. I was like, who signed that? I was like, oh, that's my chicken scratch. So a while. This is painful.
it's absolutely frustrating. I have never been more frustrating working with the FAA than this process. And the fact that for the last 2 years, we could have been told, hey, you're going to need to flight check this stuff.
And we
Get in the
scheduled
queue.
it and been done with it.
Yeah.
Thank God we got another one coming up.
So.
That's having this knowledge. So when we displace the threshold on 1.7 to do that physical, we're going to go ahead and
You
Mike
mean
and I
12.
are going to talk with the FAA and get a pretty solid timeline on when those actual physical changes will happen, and then get in the queue for the flight check of that.
Mhm.
Because once again, under the old understanding we had from the FAA, when we would have finished that physical, they would have not in the past have told us that they needed a flight check, so we would have relocated the threshold, extended on the south end of 1230, and said, okay, we're ready, give us our approaches. And they said, oh, get in the queue for a flight check. Now we know to get in the queue for that one too.
Mhm. Well, we appreciate you following up on that. Knowledge
Yeah,
is
thank
better
you.
than ignorance. So, yeah, we just wanted to understand, and I think we do now a lot better.
Well, I mean, it's frustrating all around. If I had any better thoughts on how to get it forward earlier, I would be happy to throw them out there, but I'm kind of at a loss along with everybody else.
Well,
I mean,
I did throw out the nuclear option of getting Congress involved.
Yeah.
but I'm not sure that I want to do that either.
yeah, that I don't think, I don't think.
Not
really
if we've
works
got
for-
if let me put it this way. If we didn't have this threshold relocation project and they said, yeah, it's going to be 3 years till you can turn them on, I'd be going ballistic at
Yeah.
the congressman's office. But since we at least have a viable path in a year, I mean, Matt's not going to be happy about it. He's probably already not happy about it, but
He doesn't know yet.
well, let's not tell him that just yet. He's already not getting sleep at night.
One thing that was interesting to us is that after talking with Jimmy, and I did find his address, he's in Fort Worth, but after talking to him, I think he was as surprised they needed to flight check it as we were. So within the FAA, different areas of the FAA aren't always in touch with what the requirements are. And he said, I was under the impression that hasn't always been that way, and he thinks it changed because of legal concerns and when in the past.
So that's the update on the approach status. Outside of that, everything else, the obstruction mitigation work, the contractor redoing a couple of trees has been out. They've done that. I think there's a couple of yards that just need reseeded. And we should be able to close out both phase 1 and phase two contracts. And we're waiting primarily for the fiscal year to turn over and the FAA to know whether or not they have money and when we can bid our relocation project again.
That should be any day now. I would,
Well, the fiscal year changes October 1st.
oh, okay, all
So
right. So we should have some information by the next commission meeting, maybe?
hope so.
Yeah, okay.
We're running into the complications and now it's also congressional appropriation and budgets and all of that fun stuff again for the new fiscal year. But we're trying to work up a conference call with them next week just to go over all of this again and just basically re-stress how much we need to get this thing bid so that contractors and everybody can get materials supplied because the hurricane made things even worse down south.
Yep.
So.
All right, any other questions on obstruction mitigation? What about 257 and 25 relocated?
No, I think he was just talking about getting it,
Okay,
waiting for the Uncle Sam to get it sorted so we can bid.
all right.
Carl, you got anything else?
I don't have anything else other than just kind of an update. Shane told me he expects to get the state grants out hopefully tomorrow.
Yeah, well, I guess I took that item completely off, but yeah, state grants are still coming.
I had one other question for you, Carl. This is Warren, about the LED lights. Have you looked into what that might cost us?
I will look into that before Mike and I talk to the FAA and I'll bring that up to them.
Okay,
I don't have the cost yet, Warren.
okay.
We did get far enough that there's really no, my vocabulary just left me.
Interchange.
Conversion kits
Yeah.
Mhm.
is what I'm looking for,
Okay.
to turn them into, like, so you got to go through the whole fixture again.
Mhm.
That increases.
Yeah, you could reuse the base cans and the conduit and that, but
Just need-
yeah,
need the
it
new
would be
fixture.
probably just the cost of switching the
Yeah.
fixtures out.
Yeah.
But that might be reasonable too. So
Yeah,
And the fixtures would have the heat hook up to it.
They come with, that's an optional thing that can come with it, so
We would need that.
and I wonder if we really need it. It's something to think about, because, LED lights aren't cold either. There's
To
only,
get snow or ice built up around them.
they can, a lot of it depends on what kind of storm you're getting.
Yeah.
And the last conversation I had with one of the folks from Waterloo, that they had actually just done LEDs without the heaters because the couple of storms we do get in a given year
Mhm.
aren't significant to where they're causing that ice buildup on lenses. So maybe something we can take a look at it if we go down that route.
Yeah, that's my suspicion.
And
If you put your.
Des Moines, for example, has the heaters on their primary runway. On the crosswind runway and taxiways, they do not.
That makes sense.
So if the ice is significant enough, they do have their primary they could land on but with ice over, but the rest they've decided to not go with them in Des Moines.
Especially with all of the changes of weather. We don't know if we're getting more ice storms or what's going to be
Yeah.
going on. So
Yeah, do you know, Carl, if you get the heated option, whether the heat can be turned on or off remotely, or is it just, it's always on?
I think it's not always on, but it's on. I think it's on like an interior little micro thermostat or something, so at a certain temperature it comes on with.
Okay,
So during the summer when it's not needed, I don't believe it's always on.
yeah.
But
'cause-
I know that in the winter when it gets colder, then it comes on, and so the voltage draw is roughly the same as a regular incandescent or quartz light with it on.
Right, yeah. Which is what we're trying to avoid.
Right.
Okay.
Not to change the subject away from LED lights, but any update for us on the parking lot
Not at the
budget?
moment.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions by members on projects? No. Why don't we move to airport operations?
All right. Carl, I'm going to let you go then.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And did you meet Joe?
Joe is here.
Okay, Joe and I worked together, so he was filling in since I couldn't be there tonight. So if you have questions, Joe can help you also.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Carl.
Bye.
I noticed you nodding over there, Joe.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else?
The words right out of my mouth.
Anything else?
Good questions.
Anything else to add about, and do you feel like the heating type is
So
needed?
there is a manufacturer who does make a LED light system. I believe it's Astronics. They make one that they say they don't need the heaters, but it still acts like the heater is there. The other companies do not say the same thing. It's a maintenance procedure. So, if you do get buildup of snow around them, if you are able to go out and dust them off, you will have a savings by not having the heaters, because the heater will be similar to the incandescent light bulbs as far as the load. So, it's all in your preference on what you want to do there.
I mean,
And what
your
your
hand on
operations can support.
put your hand on an incandescent replacement LED bulb, and they're quite warm.
Yes.
You'd think
Yeah.
it'd be good enough 95% of the time. Maybe spritz them with a little glycol,
I have heard stories of the incandescent light bulbs where they get huge snowdrifts around them, about a park hole being in the middle. Never
Yeah.
seen it myself, but that being there, and with the LED lights, sometimes they'll pack in tighter. I don't know if you'd see that out here, but.
I don't know that we've had
any.
anything that deep around the lights that we've seen that effect, but
I don't know how clear your runway stays, but if your runway stays fairly clean, without the heaters, if you're willing to, go out and clean them off for if you have to for those 1 or 2 storm events, might be a viable option.
yeah, and that's
that's what I would say.
something that would fall on jet air. And
And typically, though, when we get those storm events, we also get wind, and the wind seems to keep the,
Clear.
keep things clear. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now with the new plow,
what's that?
now with the new truck that we have, so it's clean, right?
Yeah.
the new truck probably.
I would
lights
point
on
out
it.
what Carl said. Des Moines is doing it on their non-primary runway, their secondary runway. Obviously, it must not be too big of an issue.
Yeah,
I think that's a great example of, that they're able to deal with it and get that savings there.
having the personnel to clean them out if necessary helps too, because
Correct.
you're talking a line of, 100 and some light fixtures, and depending on how much you got to clean off, it gets pretty
Right.
tedious.
probably we'd save money as well and not having to replace the bulbs all the time. LED bulbs would be good for 12,000 hours or something.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, we'll talk more about lights.
Yeah.
All right, back to operations.
This one, I've got a couple of things coming up, but one of the things that I talked to Scott about earlier was taking a run through the strategic plan. We've got some new commission members on the board that might not have seen this before. And then other than that, as you can see, this is a strategic plan that's a 5-year plan put together and actually put together in 2017, but covers 2019 to 2023. So we're not quite halfway through it, maybe about halfway. Because we just started fiscal year 22. Outside of that, I don't think I'm going to find it, so I'll have to do it the hard copy way. This process was put together through a consultant, and we used Bailey leadership. Regina Bailey, she was a former city council member and mayor, and runs a leadership group, but also does kind of the professional planning side of things, and was a great help. And having somebody that understood how the city operates is beneficial for this process anyway. But ultimately, During that time, and even a couple of times before that, the airport commission had refined the vision statements and the mission statements, and more or less just wanted to really focus in on I think there's 6 different goals and strategies, and talk a little bit about those. And I heard some conversation earlier about some of them, but the first one, probably the biggest one, is it has a lot of subtasks, if you will, is goal number 1, and I'm on page 33 of the packet. So if anybody's looking at the electronic version, and it's the communication side of things, communicating with city council, city administration, other opportunities to work with city departments, things like that. One of the things we haven't really been that great on upkeeping is our conversations with the city council. I do budget presentations, I do capital improvement presentations, but generally we have in the past tried to get new commission members up to the city council just to say hi. I'm who you appointed. Nice to meet everybody. Put a name and a face together. And I know for the last couple of commission members, we haven't exactly gotten that done. COVID also is one of those things that when everybody went online, it just crushed the system. So that was one where a lot easier just to not worry about it, let the council focus on the things they were trying to focus on, and go from there. But outside of that, I do attend our city staff meetings. I do attend other city meetings as needed. Work with like planning and development, and do help with building development reviews and airspace questions and all of those fun things when somebody wants to build a 15-story apartment building downtown or something. So we do have eyes out there, and it's taken me a while, but the planning and development group have kind of done a really good job of getting educated on the airport codes and airspaces around the airport. So a lot of stuff that they have questions on, they reach out to me as things are getting thought of, and in that review process before they get to like the council level where they're going for final approvals, and we have to raise a flag that says, hey, no. Annual report, I'm actually working on our current one, so I'll probably have that ready for you next month. That one, what we look at is we look at the prior fiscal year that just ended. So this one will cover fiscal year 21. And then typically the calendar year before that for construction, just because construction and fiscal years kind of have 2 different cycles on them, where all of our construction season work is in the same calendar year, but it'll actually span 2 fiscal years. So it's kind of easier to do it that way, and we can talk about each individually. I mentioned one of the things coming up is budget season. Budget season has already started, and you've got some other stuff in the packet that we'll touch on, but start off with capital improvement program discussions. That happens basically over the next month, and then we go to the operational budget about the month after that, and then usually about Thanksgiving, the draft budget is being published for city council to review, and ultimately at the beginning of the year they adopt. Tours, we do still do tours at the airport. Typically Jet Air handles that, and a large reason why Jet Air handles the tours is because they're looking through their stuff. When people are out here giving tours, they like to see the airplanes, they like to see the shop, and all of that is managed by Jet Air. So to make it easy on everybody, Jet Air coordinates the tours and takes care of that. And then over the last, few years, we have been able to work with like Parks and Rec and streets and other departments to do some improvements out here. we still invite council members and legislators and everybody that we possibly can that has an impact on airport operations out for tours. That hasn't ever changed. Whether or not council members take us up on the offer for it is a different story.
So in terms of the, I'll say the gaps in goal one, is that just the visibility of airport commission members to the council? Is that pretty much the only place?
I think that's probably the biggest one is where we've been lacking. It's just getting commission members up in front of council so they can put names and faces together. And, it's always nice because then if we do have some crisis, it's easier to, just they've seen us, they know that we've got the airport under, generally good management and good operations. And, it doesn't turn into a situation where the only time they see somebody representing the airport is either asking for money or asking for, something because something, critical happened.
So in terms of meeting that part of the goal, would that be kind of on you as our liaison to the city or?
Well, I mean, it's probably, we should sit down and maybe the commission as a collective, just maybe plan like once every couple of months, just somebody rotates and says hi to the council members. Mm-hmm. Or, sometimes it's easier when you get the new folks, they can take a month and it's not anything big that we do. It's just, they have just like we do, they have a period for public comment stuff not on the agenda. All you do is say, hi, I'm on the agenda, or I'm on the airport commission, maybe a little bit about why you applied, and that's it. Mm-hmm. Pretty much just an intro. And
yeah, I think we should do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
So did we, when we wrote it.
I'm not even sure we need a motion.
No,
Just go.
we just need to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, we committed to doing it twice a year. We haven't done that. The last time I think it actually happened was when Chris and Bob went down with the strategic plan, because that was one of the things we did was we were going to say, hey, we have one.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm Chris and Bob, and I don't think we've done it since.
I don't think we have either.
Actually, the only time there was that one time that we had like the new city council orientation, and I went in your place.
Yeah.
That's probably about the closest that we can say we've done it.
Mm-hmm.
So
do we need to do it as a group, or can we just say, I'll go to the next one? Or
I think we send two so that we don't run into,
Yeah.
we're having a public meeting.
Two or
yeah,
less
two or less.
to save
you
the
want to
quorum
go the
issue.
next time there's a city council meeting or something? Sure. We could work out
I don't
the date.
have the council schedule in front of me, but I will get that. And
What I would suggest is maybe just if you can get the schedule together and maybe put together a quick, one of those, what do they call those little surveys? Like what dates could I attend?
Oh, like a doodle
A
poll.
doodle poll, yeah, a
doodle
doodle poll would be good. Just something
Okay.
like that. That way we can at least get a look at our calendars. and
As
see
when it is,
what-
Oh,
Sure.
And we don't need to spam them with our presence, but we committed to doing it twice a
Yeah.
year.
yeah,
I mean, we should.
Yeah.
and
I don't know. all the new council people.
maybe twice a year is too much. They still see me during budget season
Yeah.
for presentations.
Well, if there's
All
one
of that
particular
fun
meeting
stuff.
that might like make the most sense, if you could give us some visibility on that too,
Yeah.
that'd be helpful. Okay.
So
Goal 2.
goal 2 was all about the money.
Mm-hmm.
Developing and maintaining funding mechanisms for airport operations and facility improvements. I mean, typically that means just going after grants, keeping it wasn't necessarily our goal to have a self-sufficient operating budget, but that's more or less been the city's goal.
Mm-hmm.
But for the last, I don't know, five fiscal years, we've been operationally self-sufficient.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just making sure we maintain our budgets, and this will probably have some conversation next month because I am going to propose some changes to the fuel flowage fees for the commission, and the commission needs to probably talk about that and have a good conversation. And I fully expect, pushback on that as one would expect.
From us or?
No, from the
From the one
folks
who
that
wants
it's
to
going to
circle and
impact.
approach.
Oh, yeah.
Which would be you guys.
No.
So,
No, okay.
but I mean, we have the FAA plan that gives us grant funding. We have the state program that gives us grant funding, even if we don't get projects every year. We have been applying. We do keep our ears open for other grant sources, even though they're not necessarily typical. Just a lot of it because there's dedicated programs for aviation. Most of the other programs really don't let aviation things rank high when they get in front of them. So
There's not a parking lot grant. that we
not
don't
really
know
a
about.
parking lot grant.
Yeah.
Some airports have used RISE money for like roadways and things like that. So that's out there, but not really for parking lots. Goal number 3, increasing the airport for aviation and other community uses. I think that has a lot to do with just the expanding facilities, parallel taxiway, making operations on the airfield more efficient. We bought a flight simulator that helped contribute to making the airport a little bit more friendly to pilots, training. Matt does occasionally host events with Jet Air in the hangars. We do the pancake breakfast, things like that. COVID brought us the opportunity to host the Summer of the Arts group and drive-in movies. So that's been new. We've also got the autocross club that runs on the south end of the airport. That's been new.
Yes, playground's fun.
The playground park.
Yeah.
Don't overlook the website.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we got the website. Website's been completed.
I think we've made
A lot.
huge strides.
Mhm.
in going through.
I'd agree.
Goal number 4, maintaining the safety and aesthetic appeal of the airport. I mean, obviously the FAA projects we've done the last couple of years have been specifically towards safety and clearing up our approaches and making sure aircraft can operate safely. But we've also, we just in the last month or so, we started talking about maybe doing murals on the hangar buildings. A couple other the terminal building, which we'll talk about in a second here. We did work on Riverside Drive to open up that view so you could see the jet from all directions, and our entrance was a little bit cleaner and easier to see.
And you can see the word airport now.
Yep. Yeah, we did get out there and we trimmed back after talking with Parks and Rec to make sure we weren't going to kill anything. We did trim back the grasses that were planted out there.
We did paint the hangars.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah. 2018.
2018.
Try to get trail/wide sidewalk as it says, but I guess the city is gonna do that intersection first. or
Yeah.
something.
Speaking of which, now the other trails out of commission too. I can't get here on the bike.
Can't.
It's almost an impossibility now to get to ride your bicycle to the airport.
Why is that?
So you could take the trail, what is the trail that takes down to Terry Trueblood?
Yeah.
But there's a washout
Oh, there's a washout.
underneath, like right where the railroad bridge is.
Yeah, oh, it's washed out there. Oh.
And just looking at the washout, I don't expect they'll get that fixed until next year. So, yeah, we can't really get here anymore.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Did not know that.
Yeah, I was walking that trail from Terry Trueblood towards the Yellow Bridge. And they had a fence across it, but maybe it's just some temporary work being done.
You don't want to walk on that sidewalk. There's
Yeah.
nothing supporting it.
Back into the river.
Mhm.
Great.
Great. So is there, again, we've tried, is there something else we can do? Anyone got any ideas?
Short
the
of
trail?
funding it ourselves, not really.
Mhm.
done pretty well so far to do all of these.
And then the last goal that's on the list is implementing the master plan, which is kind of the chain of events that we've been doing.
So you talked about potential or possibility of refreshing this, given that we're kind of coming up toward the end of our time frame here and
Yeah, with
got a lot of
this,
things done.
with this running through 23, unless the airport commission has an interest of doing it sooner, I'd probably say next summer, we'll be looking at maybe kicking off the process and starting work on an update for that development.
Good.
Yep.
Which I'd be supportive of. It was a really good exercise about prioritization and forces you to relook at the master plan and figure out what we've done and what we haven't that we, send to the FAA. And it's just a good exercise.
Any other questions or discussion? Thanks, Mike, for bringing that up. That was very helpful for me, especially. So.
And I didn't know much about it.
Yeah. No, it's a good plan to have. Actually, we're one of the only airports in the state that has a 5-year strategic plans. Everybody has a airport master plan. That's an FAA document, but rarely have airports gone to shrink that down into something a little bit more. I don't remember which year I did it, but I did a presentation at the state conference based on this process and just kind of how the airport got revitalized after kind of the early 2000s.
So that's a really nice document. It's very professional.
No,
Really well researched as well. Those questionnaires.
Yep.
We should think about following the same path.
All right. Well, there's no other discussion. We'll move on to budget.
I'm gonna pass this around for folks to look at, but talk a little bit about the same thing. I believe, Judy, you had gone to the public art meeting that was a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
I don't know if you wanted to start there or talk about that first.
Well, I went and I presented the main ideas that we had a large area that they could use, that it was an entrance from the southern part of the city to come into it. It's also a major entrance for the airport. I talked about the economic impact of the airport for the area, and a little bit of why the airport was important, and that the paint was relatively new, so they wouldn't have to start with a base paint, that there would be other things that we could come up with later, but that this would not have to have a lot of detail because you're seeing it from so far away. They could even have multiple artists have different parts of it. The city would, they asked if we had already had an artist in mind and what we wanted, and I said no. We would like it to do the history or something about the airport history if possible, but we did not have anybody in specific that the art group would be doing that. They would, we would like to have some input when they come up with some designs or something, whether we liked it or not, but that it would definitely be something that the city would have control over. And that was about it. They let me go ahead of all of these things that we're going to have a long discussion, which was nice.
So are they going to let us know? Or?
It'll probably be next spring or something before they get around to this part of it.
Which is good for us because we got doors to install before we can do anything anymore.
They're not going to paint during the winter anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and it would be, they'd take care of trying to get the artist, trying to do all of that stuff, so. And they were glad that they had control over it. They preferred that they had control over it.
We just want the ability to veto.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly. Yeah.
that's basically it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it went well. Oh, they did ask what the cost was, And Marcia said that they could come up with an estimate based on the,
Square footage.
well, the what is it, the refuge building they just did? The
Mhm.
restore building, one of the buildings they just did,
Oh,
Yeah.
is about half, that's like 150 feet, now just 300 feet. So she said they could come up with sort of a rough estimate, but with it not having to be as detailed, then it would make it easier too.
Mhm.
So they seem pleased with that.
Great. Good work.
We'll keep tabs with Mark. And
Oh, yeah.
But the other half of that, we talked about doing something with the old baggage check
Yeah.
window. That was a mock-up that one of the companies I talked to gave me, using one of the logos that Fuel had previously developed for us. And I have reached out to Fuel and they've got a couple of ideas too, but in general, what we're looking at is probably about $1,000 for the work to do just like a metal sign, a laminate sign so that you don't get the peeling, things like that. But we would have to do a couple $100 worth of work to replace the existing plywood that's on there and kind of get everything resealed up and in better condition to accept something on top of it.
which is going to need to be done anyway.
Yeah, it's going to need to be done anyway. But that part's not really a question.
in my view, that is worth every dollar we would spend on
Oh,
it.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think it should be.
The one comment that Fuel had when I talked to them, because I reached out to them for other sign printing folks, because I was not having good luck on getting anybody to return phone calls or,
Mhm.
but they also suggested taking a look at our directional sign out there and
Yeah.
doing something at the same time.
Oh, yeah, that would potentially be a good idea
So-
because that's looking pretty rough.
They didn't have the timing. They didn't have enough time to put things together for the meeting tonight. So I'm hoping at the next meeting we'll have kind of a mini show and tell from Fuel on options. But you know, they came up with the same. You know, we can do the logo on that square, or we could have a mini mural or you know something. It really depends on.
One thing I would recommend on whatever we end up doing, if Fuel's going to be engaged, I would appreciate their kind of artistic
Yes.
thumbprint on it
Yeah.
to make sure, because they did a great job on the website, they did a great job on the logo.
Yeah.
It's easy to mess something like this up, so it's nice to have someone who really knows what they're doing from a design perspective.
I'm looking at that and I think it would be nice if we didn't have a stark white background. Something that might,
I wanted to go aluminum to match the window frames.
so that would be something.
That one happened to be literally the logo I had sent them because
Yeah.
all of the logos I had from the original creation had some background.
Mm.
I didn't have anything that was clear,
Yeah.
essentially.
Either that or some
Off-white. or
off-white or something. to-
Yeah.
to match the
Slight
bricks.
gray.
You could even put a
Slight pink to match
You
the
could even put a
brick.
slight
Yeah.
pattern to it, so the brick-like pattern.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that was more of a scale photo, but I mean, it gives you
Yeah.
a good idea what it looks like, which is,
I think that's,
you know, the goal at this point. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be anything super expensive. Maybe a duplicate effort for,
That's what I did last time.
there you go.
the,
So that was the aluminum one.
Okay.
yeah. And I used Pip up here to do my neighborhood signs that I've set out, big metal things. And those cost me like 30 or 40, maybe $50 each, and all it had was kind of neighborhood news. And then it was in a frame that you
Yep.
stick in the ground. So if that's a great price, because that's a really big area too, to have it all done. Yeah, I think that's very reasonable.
How much
So-
did you say it would be?
About $1,000.
Yeah, that's probably thicker than the stuff that I had. Do we need to do a motion or anything for that, or just
Well, I want,
do it?
before we move on this one, I want to kind of give Fuel a chance to put their thoughts together.
Yeah.
And I mean, we still have the option of going this route,
Then we need to.
but I think
Design it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
having those guys take a
go
crack at
ahead.
it.
We all agree that
Yeah,
It needs to be.
it's money well spent,
yeah.
Mhm.
because that's been an eyesore.
Since it wasn't a baggage store.
And this has actually been brought up before in the last several years. This is
Yeah.
the first time. So it's time to do something.
So that's it. As far as the budget in your packet was the CIP call letter for our submittal of our CIP program for the next fiscal year to the city. Just kind of wanted to use that to start triggering the thoughts on budget, especially the operational stuff. Typically, the budget committee consists of the chair and the secretary, and then myself. So we go through, I have a line item spreadsheet of our budget for almost as far back as I've been here. The way I have it, at least I hope it's a little bit easier to read than what the city documents kind of print out. But I mean, you can look through, you can look back and you can see the history of different accounts and where spending has been. But primarily from the commission level, if you've got things, I know the parking lot is kind of the thing we've been talking about, which I'm 99% sure we can work into the budget. But if there's anything else you've seen around or other updates, or we're talking about the murals, probably putting aside some money for the fiscal year for our strategic plan study, things like that. Anything else that you might want to talk about or think about, having that in the next few weeks would really help to be able to research potential pricing and if we have to prioritize some stuff, give the airport commission kind of a chance to do that before we really turn everything in. Otherwise, as far as the FAA and the state programs, we kind of turn those in based on just where we're at in the airport master plan and projects.
So one of the things I'd like to see, as we start pulling those things together, kind of getting back to goal 4, is, we've got a lot of ideas for land site here. Can we get all of those into a kind of a master plan? What is it that, 20 years from now, we want this to look like out front? And that way you can say, all right, we want it to look like this. And the first thing we got to get done is the parking lot. And the parking lot's already laid out. Yep, we know where it goes, so that we don't end up putting it somewhere and then realizing a few years later, shoot, wish we hadn't put it there because we wanted to do this. That's just something I'd like to see before we, move forward. Say, we just, throw a parking lot in. I'd like to see a bit of a long-term vision for that space.
Sure.
Would we hire a landscape designer to do that?
I think, I think Carl and the team can do that. I mean,
Okay.
it's something that's within their wheelhouse.
All right.
Okay.
I don't think Carl's here, but I'm sure he'd love to do it. Why he's not here, now's the time to elect him to do it.
Yeah.
No, Carl's already put some, at least the parking lot on a map for me because we did pricing when we went after the state grant last year or the year before, or even this year, because it was part of our package. So that map already exists. It's just taking a look beyond that.
Right. And if that fits, and again, landscaping and any other kind of gateway vision we've got under goal 4.
I mean, if you've got, I would say as far as things this way, if you want to think about things, the trees on the driveway
That's what I was just
Are-
thinking about.
are probably in the not too distant future there's,
And what replaces that, and,
Yep.
and then just kind of, and even just if you look through here, we've got this fence that juts out in here, and I don't know if it does anything. If it doesn't,
it really doesn't do anything anymore. There has been some commentary over the last couple of years about relocating, especially a lot of this end of the fence and just having kind of a straight line where the buildings are.
just a realignment. Yeah.
Yep. So
That's a good point.
there's that.
Yeah.
And again, that opens it up. We're getting back into the goal 4, as far as green space, park space. If you really wanted to invite, more of the community in, that, is where your bike paths and some of your landscaping create that invitation. So, all right.
Sure.
We'll keep talking about it. Okay, anything else on budget? If not, want to move to events?
Winding down the year for events. So we've got one more autocross event coming up in next week. Yes. So That's August 15th.
August.
Did it already happen?
I think that one should have been deleted.
Okay.
We had the pancake breakfast.
Yeah, we did have the pancake breakfast. That went pretty well. I thought it was a little, given the conditions, I thought it was lightly attended, but, moderately successful.
Yeah,
Flying
it wasn't
traffic was
great.
pretty
It
light.
was not a great day to fly, if I remember right. It was pretty overcast.
The day wasn't too bad, but then right about 10:30, we had some really dark clouds roll through
Mhm,
that scared everybody away.
mhm.
Like if you were still here in an airplane at like 10:30, you took off, and I think everybody did. Because we had a really dark, just
Yeah.
shelf come through, and but all in all, as far as the walkthrough traffic, the people that typically are involved, they seem pretty pleased with the turnout. So, I mean, I'm not going to argue with them. If they're happy, then we're happy. But yeah, so that happened. We've got one more drive-in movie on the 2nd, and I know it's Halloween themed, but I forget what the movie is. And then that wraps
How
up.
has the attendance for those drive-in movies been going?
They've been good. They have still limited the attendees because of the space,
Mhm.
but I think they usually do like 50 cars or so.
And you're getting close to full?
And yeah,
That's great.
it's generally been full. So the ones I've seen, I haven't seen all of them, but
All right.
What happened with the t-shirts and
Oh, yeah, good question.
They're selling it.
Matt and I came up to an agreement. We sold them to Jet Air for $5 a shirt,
And that's what they're selling it for.
and that's what they're selling them for.
They're real popular with pilots coming in.
Nice.
Oh, there's a t-shirt. Hey, honey, there's t-shirts for
So,
sale.
yeah, so officially all of the shirts are now owned by Jet Air. I took that check and deposited it earlier.
So now we can do the parking lot.
Matt and I have talked about doing something different to do t-shirts in the future with both the airport logo and Jet Air's logo, and maybe splitting the cost of everything and then splitting the profits of everything. I don't know if that's actually going to happen or not, but
Well, and there are other things too. I mean, hats are a big deal. I go nuts for a good hat,
Yeah.
especially with my hair.
The sun in your eyes as you're flying into the sun.
Mhm. Yeah, and if you can get those hats that don't have the beanie on top,
Exactly.
because that's when you're flying Cessnas.
Oh,
That's where the
ow,
headset-
God, that
your
hurts so
headset.
bad.
Yeah,
It does.
it smashes on that
Oh.
button, you get a sore spot.
That's
Yeah.
like the pilot version of stepping on a Lego.
that is actually why I quit wearing hats. I used to wear a baseball cap all the time.
Mhm.
And then when I started flying because of the headset,
Mhm.
that's that button.
Well, if you got an EAA hat or an AOPA
They
hat,
don't have-
yeah. Fun
Judy and I are
fact.
like, yeah, sure. So we believe you.
Take our word for it.
Mhm.
Now you guys need to show us. We cannot take your word for it.
Having a little centimeter white button smashing into your scalp for hours.
Oh,
Really is.
FBO flight training, is Matt gonna give us an update?
Matt is not here naturally. He is actually over in Galesburg at the Stearman Fly-In.
Okay.
The big news beyond the Stearman Fly-In is as mentioned in an email, his second child was born.
Mhm.
Everybody is all nice and healthy. I did have, and I can't seem to locate them, a printout of the. There we go. Yeah. Too many piles again.
Okay.
As is custom, that is the kind of the maintenance report that Jet Air typically does. Let's see, you want to hand me one of those back or wait till you get around? I mean, as far as work, there a little bit of tree trimming, weed clearing, stuff like that, just getting a little bit more things cleaned up. I know they did a lot of work out front here, just getting ready for the pancake breakfast and making sure our parking, gopher holes and anything else was filled in.
The gate over here that my husband and I walked through was not supposed to be open. We went to look at stuff and the gate over here, it says walking gate closest to terminal not latching.
Oh,
They
the
have
one
a
right,
gate
right.
and the keypad
outside.
right
Yeah.
over there. Yeah,
Yeah, we had,
okay. I just
Yeah, it's
assumed it
supposed to
was,
self-close,
okay.
yeah,
We had a good time, went over, took pictures.
right?
And I just
Poured
assumed, it-
sugar into gasoline tanks.
I just assumed it was because of some planes out there that people were around, that they had just left it open to go in and out.
You're supposed to know the code. You're supposed to, pilots have seen the code on the other side of the door that you have to tap in to get
It
it.
seems like it's always the same code at every airport.
it's because it is.
Yeah,
If you're an aviation person, all airport codes are three things. One of three things.
One of three things.
Okay.
that's a secret.
Mhm.
Pilots swear each other to secrecy over those.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, outside of that, and then
Secret
a
handshake.
little bit of maintenance on the AC unit, because when our last heat wave came through, a couple of units weren't really kicking out cold air like they should have.
Okay.
But I don't have any flight training or update news from that end, so
And we're still gonna talk about simulator rates first of next year.
I believe that's the
We
plan.
can talk about it anytime, but I think you're right. We don't want to change the rates until that 2
Right,
years is up.
right.
Yeah. Are we up to member reports?
Yeah, I think we'll jump into
So-
commission reports.
If you haven't seen it, the poster is printed and hung on the door.
Okay, good.
Oh, good deal.
For the flight simulator.
Yep.
We did try to use command strips on it, and they didn't work.
Yeah,
That's why it's
So
free.
it's framed. It's really nice.
I
Yeah.
noticed that the windows were open.
I had
Yeah,
I had it
appreciate that.
printed, believe it or not, at Walgreens.
Hmm.
Only
That's
cost me
nice.
$17 to have it printed, and then I went down to the art supply place
Uh-huh.
and got a foam board to mount it on. And
That's great.
then was it Jet Air that framed it?
Yeah.
So
No, I appreciate having the blinds open on the room when we're not using it.
Yeah,
That way people can
yeah.
at least see in there.
Yeah.
yeah, I went and opened the blinds,
Mhm.
and so far no one else has shut them. And I guess if you're really embarrassed about how bad you're flying the simulator, you can shut them. Otherwise,
Right.
why not leave them open?
Right, yeah. Any other,
But maybe put a sign behind the door, like open them before you leave.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's a good idea. All right. Staff report.
Went down to Kansas City. Did end up going to the Kansas City conference. Unfortunately, the rumors were true. The FAA people were prevented from being there. But overall, it wasn't bad. I mean, it could have been better. Just having that FaceTime with the FAA really is a big piece of that conference, and not having that opportunity. We even asked if we could go to their place, because their building is literally like 3 blocks away from the hotel and the conference center, and they weren't allowing anybody into their buildings either. So,
Mhm.
but all in all, learned a couple new things, had some, helped Carl give his presentation on runway approaches and obstruction mitigation and that kind of process of doing work. So that was a fun time.
Remind me, you said that that we budget to send you to that conference as well as a commission member each year, right?
We budget extra for 2 commission members for the conferences, just so we don't avoid the quorum issues.
Yeah,
So yeah, if commission members want to go to
I think
those
it'd be,
conferences.
I think it'd be a good idea to cycle in commission members to go down with Mike
Yeah, that's
to
what I
those.
would
I think
do.
that would be a helpful exercise.
Yeah, I agree.
We can just cycle through the thing and get 1 commission member per, get them to go down once during their term. If we're budgeting for it already.
It really is a great idea, because then we could kind of see what goes on.
My
Yeah.
calendar is getting full with all these activities.
Yeah, you might be the first one going.
Yeah.
And that's always in September. or August, I'm sorry.
Generally in August.
Oh my.
And then we have the spring aviation conference, which is the state level conference. Also similar, you get FaceTime with the state and the FAA, and we are hosting it next spring at the graduate.
Oh, it's here. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
When is that?
April 14, 15, and 16.
Is there a
2022.
registration fee for those conferences?
There typically is. However, as the host, I think I can exercise some executive authority that allows people to register.
We could have a name tag that says meeting plan.
And how are we involved in that? I mean, are we? As
We're
the airport?
literally planning it.
Okay. When you say
The-
we,
the-
you
the
mean-
agenda. Well, I.
Is that the
You.
royal?
Yeah, it is the royal we. I am planning it.
We are not amused.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've got the agenda of like 80% figured out. And the conference all has they all have their typical stuff. So it's not, it's not super hard to, especially at the state level, to plan that one. You have an evening activity for folks that show up early, and we do a airport association board meeting at that time. And you have the main day of the conference, and then you have like the morning after where you have a couple of sessions so that everybody has to stay for the hotel room. Because hotels and conference centers make you have hotel rooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Good.
Any out of office or anything planned coming out or?
I will be in Ankeny next week for a quarterly board of directors meeting for the Airports Association. I think that's Thursday. But other than that, I do not have anything currently planned for out of office. I still typically do take between Christmas and New Year's off. That's been my vacation pattern, even though I don't really go anywhere. But it seems to be a quiet time for everybody. So.
All right. All right. Well, that concludes our business, unless anyone else has something they want to bring up. Our next meeting is scheduled for October 14th. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
My second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.